You catch out of the corner of your eye, sometimes just barely and almost close enough to touch, that ever changing archetypical form of consciousness that is the creative spirit of consciousness itself. It manifests through different forms, people, place, situational consciousness. You become sensitive to that. You long for it, so to speak. You look for it, and that's the creative intelligence trying to become discerning and to create that level of attention around itself to bring itself back into a way of worship, in a sense, or a way of having a relationship with yourself as an infinite being. What does that look like? What does that transition from infinite consciousness to biological, time-oriented consciousness look like? It has to be self-illuminating. A prayer would be to have happiness and joy and bliss. That would be a prayer from this biological form. But the installation of an infinite consciousness into a biological form is problematic. There's intricate details, circuits that have to be restructured. Different voltages apply here. So, for me, as a cautionary note to those who are following this in any way, structurally allow yourself to be strong. You have to have a strong nervous system. You have to be strong physically. You have to have a way of holding yourself still for long periods of time. In which you have to learn how to meditate. It's required. And then establish a form of consciousness that you can have a devotional relationship with. In our typical form, it could be a goddess, a god, or a combination thereof, whatever you wish it to be, but something that you would look for in those moments, seeing in a glimpse or in the background, or a manifestation, a concert, whatever, a formulation of creative intelligence that's manifesting itself in front of you at that moment. And you look for that. Again, that's a discerning point of view. And the message again is to have a structurally vital, strong, biological form. You can't do this. You can't live with this. Other than that, you have to take the time to structurally prepare yourself for this increased state of awareness. And it could just be perceived, it could just be internalized. But nonetheless, to have this kind of energy flowing through and not to be able to somewhat contain it and focus it in vectors that are coherent through the mantras and set, each breath, guru, guru, guru. That's set as the background of all of this, So that gives you the movement through this kind of hall of mirrors of your own mind and other minds too. Collective Jungian subconscious is totally manifest here too, spreading out on all kind of science fiction vectors too, and whatever other imaginations you can come up with. The only way it makes sense is you've stabilized a form in the biological. That's the only cognitive point of reference here. And then that biological reference point brings you back to your heart. Because you've taken the time to learn this stuff, to instill the basic form that allows the energetics to move this coherently. And it has to be set up self-hypnotically in subliminal programs, because otherwise you won't do it. You'll get spaced out and distracted. So you have to find a way to insert these as a lifestyle. I think, as a practical nature. That's the best way to say this. All right. I'm just talking to myself here, trying to, and when I look back on this, I just make sure that I'm communicating to myself properly at the moment. So, Satnam.